Welcome to the RJLT Economics. In this podcast, I want to discuss corporate wokeism. I want to make the point that corporate wokeism, just like wokeism, is a perversion of ESG. I want to basically, perhaps, if I can, to make a redemption for ESG. I want to make the distinction between good ESG, which I believe is indeed important for both the society and in fact for the company, a good practice of ESG, compared to and in contrast to corporate wokeism. I want to develop today's podcast in two steps. First, I want to present two short examples of corporate wokeism, and secondly, I want to basically make the point that ESG and corporate wokeism are completely different. So let's start with two examples. The first one, as you may have known at this point, that PayPal proposed to basically fine their users if they post information that PayPal disagrees with. Basically, they say that if you post on social media information that fits in a certain criteria or perhaps goes against certain criteria that are subjectively set and not made clear by PayPal, PayPal would fine you $2,500. And they will basically debit from your account. I presume that if you have a bank card, credit card, or a bank account associated with the PayPal account, PayPal will take your money. And this is obviously is a very bad case of corporate wokeism. They basically, I don't know exactly what was the motivation behind this. Perhaps someone wanted to really to mess with the company's reputation. Perhaps I don't understand what exactly is the thinking behind this. I doubt anyone from the legal department was behind it, and in fact, I think PayPal said some executives from PayPal announced that this was not really their intention, that they are sorry about it, and indeed I think they will be very sorry about it if they really implemented this policy, because however woke the public is, and however woke the legislature perhaps currently in the United States is, and that does not really matter, because once you start fining your users, you're liable to a lot of lawsuits. And make no mistake, after the election next month, I think there will be a lot of new congressmen from the Republican Party who will join the U.S. Congress. And make no mistake that there will be hearings of PayPal for this. And I'm certain that PayPal will be losing millions, if not billions, in fines and compensations if they really started doing this, because very simply, no company has the right to enforce any law, and indeed, in this case, people are not even breaking the law. The only party that is breaking the law in what PayPal was proposing, it was PayPal. And PayPal will be breaking so many laws so many times that I think the company will go under very quickly. So they were very sorry, and that's, I think, a very bad case of corporate wokeism. Second example is the Hollywood. We know that Hollywood has gone woke, particularly in the last about 5 years, I would say, when this became, I think it has something to do with TDS, the Trump derangement syndrome. And for whatever reason, they have basically had a collective meltdown or whatever. That the characters became, they all have to be lesbian, they all have to be homosexual, or maybe not even homosexual is not enough. They need to be non-binary, they need to be XYZ, right? They need to be very mercurial, let's say, in their gender, in their sexual orientation, and in everything that's associated with it. So a lot of the scenes are just somewhat quite ridiculous. For example, I watched a film recently. I'm not going to name the names, but in this film there is this young woman, or let's call it maybe a teenager, who has to be, of course, Latin. Let's say that's Latinx. But of course, she needs also to have two moms. She does not have a father, but she has two moms. And her two moms, of course, are of, I would say, just from looking at the actors, perhaps not genetically related to her. While at the same time, she also needs to have the most generic Latinx name, so that's basically fulfills, checks a box in terms of wokeism in that film. Although I must say that there's not enough homosexual or maybe gender fluid scenes in that film, so perhaps it is not very successful in that regard. But joking aside, what has resulted from this obsession with wokeism in Hollywood is that there are a lot of scenes that are just simply absurd. And sometimes characters are inserted, and in some films, even the main characters are created purely to check boxes. As a result, very, very much less emphasis has been put on the character building, on the storytelling, and on the cinematography. So you have a range of horrible films that's basically just an exercise in satisfying an audience that doesn't exist, let's say. Or perhaps pandering, let's say, pandering to an audience that doesn't exist. I think that perhaps is what I want to say. Well, that's corporate wokeism. And now let's move on to the second point. And I think this is the more important point, which is what I want to make, is that ESG is not corporate wokeism, even though a lot of the practitioners of ESG today are doing perhaps just corporate wokeism. They're checking boxes. They are they're not really going into why ESG is important. They think that ESG is important because the public would think in a certain way, or because the politicians would react, or legislations will direct in certain direction or in a certain way. That I don't think is necessarily the essence of ESG. The ESG, what is ESG? It's environmental, social, and governance. These three aspects are not directly related to the immediate short-term profits, but a company that practices good ESG, in my judgment, is more likely, I mean, the real ESG, not the wokeist, not the woke type of ESG, but the real ESG, they are actually have better potentials for making profits in the long run. Why? Let's go by ESG. What is, when it comes to environments, a company that actually is good at protecting its environment, basically, I think, will be able to actually attract better employees. Because let's say you are manufacturing You are a manufacturing company. There are two manufacturing. Let's just say there are manufacturing company A, which basically emits less poisonous gases, or water pollutes less water, right, etc. And the town that company A operates in, it has basically a better environment for its employees. It can attract better employees. That in the long run is actually good for the company. And even though in this case perhaps some legislations are involved, a company that's able to emit less and pollute less will have to spend less in cleaning up the pollutions and the emissions. So in the long run, I think a company that is able to basically has a better environmental performance will basically have a stronger, more talented workforce, more committed workforce, and it will basically have lower cost in the long run. When it comes to social, a company that's basically blatantly violates a lot of ethics basically is I think going to antagonize a lot of local communities and antagonize a lot of customer groups, right? A company that is lying repeatedly about the specifications of its products. It's for example, a company that, or perhaps a company that uses child labor, that abuses its employees. All these things go out and provide negative, provide negative, how to say, build a negative image for it, and negative publicity, and that would affect the market performance for the company, right? Again, there are two companies, and one of them has a better image in terms of being socially responsible, in terms of treating its customers with respect. Another one is known to do the opposite. If the products are really similar, if the prices are similar, I think most people who are aware of these issues would choose the better performer. And in the long run, the worst performer would basically perform worse economically. And then, of course, governance. A company that has good governance means that it can actually have a tighter supply chain. It can respond to events quicker. That it has higher quality control, and it can also provide better service after sales. So a company that provides better governance. By the way, another aspect of governance is corporate governance, which is basically providing shareholder value to the shareholders, right? Instead of having a couple of executives who basically go rogue and let's say spend the investors or the shareholders' money on, let's say, prostitution holidays. They will be more judicious in their expenditures. So all these things taken into account means that a company with better governance is a company that is more likely to stay profitable in the long run. So ESG, a company that is good at ESG, can actually indeed be profitable, more profitable in the long run. Corporate wokeism is different. Wokeism is, I believe, is just an extension of neocolonialism. New wokeism is using the semantics of equality, of freedom, of human rights, but instead perverse these words to mean new colonialism, extraction of resources from unworthy countries, quote unquote, and the subjugation of certain peoples, not because of their gender or sexual orientation or race, but simply because of their class. And this is at the foundation of capitalism, right? So I think, obviously, I think there are more to say on this issue, and a couple of very good videos that I watched recently. In fact, I think today, one is by, I think, Ben Norton, in maybe his channel is called Multipolarista, and another one from Garland Nixon. And Ben Norton talked about commented on the ridiculous ridiculous speech made by Joseph Borrell. Garland Nixon talked about the critical race theory and how it is used by these neo-colonialists to hide their crimes and to basically paper over what they have been doing and to divert the attention away from what they have been doing, and also to at the same time to, of course, demonize the Republicans. I think those are very good videos to watch. I do recommend them as well. And I think some of my thoughts in this video can be attributed to ideas borrowed from them. I think, although ESG itself, I do want to emphasize again that it is something that is interesting, but it needs to be done well. And unfortunately, most of the investors today who do ESG either only use an ESG score that they don't understand, that they buy on a subscription basis, or they basically look for corporate wokeism. And that is really a sad thing. And that's really just completely negates why ESG is should be paid attention to, right? Because ESG ultimately is, for an economist, is about having a more sustainable economy and having more sustainable companies that will succeed in the long term. Corporate wokeism is just performance. It's performance for ESG, but it does not improve the economy. It does not improve long-term performance of any company. All right. Thank you for listening. I wish you a great day.